Yes, it's me again. I haven't uploaded the videos I made this morning, so I'm way behind. So anyway, I did talk earlier in those videos about, how we do this argument thing, and I've talked about that before, and perception, and, this, oh crap, shoelace. Alright, I'll try to talk while I shoelace and talking. So I'm going to now argue some points that are just so obvious that, that really shouldn't, this argument should be over in a lot of ways. People should understand the context of our existence and what it represents, and they don't seem to be doing that at all. Alright, so there's just a thing that has to do with that whole population thing and people's attitudes and whatever. But even if you believe in God and Adam and Eve, or you believe in evolution, there's still an Adam and Eve. There's still a first couple of the human race, the first pair that are all descendants of all humans can be traced to two individuals. Alright, and so look at the implication. Two people had sex, and now there's 7 billion people on planet Earth. Now, realistically, every couple that has children is doing Adam and Eve. They are potentially creating 7 billion kids. Given 10 or 20,000 years of whatever happening. It's more like 40 or 50 maybe, but whatever, it doesn't matter. The point is, that's the potential creation implication for each couple. Obviously nowadays people don't have as many kids, but fewer kids die, and populations are still increasing, and medical technology as it gets to the third world is going to keep increasing their birth rate. Even though their actual birth rate might be decreasing, the number of people surviving to reproductive age will be increasing. Well, anyway, it's just so obvious that this is not a sustainable circumstance. Everybody can't play Adam and Eve. Everybody can't be Romeo and Juliet. Yet the most human beings fall into this role-playing and think there's no problem, that somehow they're entitled to be Adam and Eve, and that and that there's somehow there's this unlimited place for us to go or something. This isn't an island. So that brings me to an Amazing Atheist video where he's interviewing some nutball who thinks the human race ought to go into space, and has these wacky theories. I don't know why this guy has any credibility, and I can't remember his jerky name. Yes, he talks fast, big deal. That's not good enough, because it's all a bunch of crap. This whole idea that, we'll just put solar panels up in space, and then we'll radio wave the energy down to Earth. Well, first off, it's going to cost you a fortune in energy to get your stupid solar panels into space after it costs you the money to make them. They don't last forever, so you're going to have to maintain them or replace them. And this whole idea of beaming energy, well, guess what? You got the same problem. You got to beam it through an atmosphere. You start pumping, a beam substantial enough of electromagnetic energy to reach the Earth's surface and to be actually used as energy. Well, it's going to have to go through the atmosphere, and it's going to have to blow it, vaporize it as it does. So it just isn't that simple. You can't just plug an extension cord and run it down to Earth. But anyway, these assholes. So this guy thinks we should all be out there exploring space and living in space and doing all this stupid crap in space. And it's like this stupid argument that, well, so what if we're not ready? You got to start driving the bus anyway. So what, you don't got a license? So what, you don't know what you're doing? If you don't drive it now, we're never going to drive it, or some kind of bullshit argument like that. And it's just that, a bullshit argument. This recklessness is what's got us into this fucking mess. And so he just basically, the other thing he does is he compares the present to the past. Oh, look how much better off we are. We're living high. So we got penicillin. We also got AIDS and herpes and stuff that penicillin doesn't do us any good to fix. We also got the realization that we're not ignorant little creatures anymore. We're not dumb fucktards. We can understand that this whole chasing game is just that, a game that doesn't have an end. It never gets satisfied. Everybody just keeps playing out their role in this death march. Well, let's put another couple of victims on the trail and have them do their little piece of the Trail of Tears or whatever you want to call it. But it's just bullshit. So anyway, so whatever. It was a weird interview anyway. There wasn't much conversation. It was just the asshole would talk for 10 minutes. Amazing Atheist would ask a question. He'd talk for another 10 minutes. So fuck it. I haven't watched the whole thing yet. It's a little hard on the brain. to sit through. You keep wanting to just, hey, stop, wait a minute, that's bullshit. And, you know, and it's no fun when you can't stop somebody. Anyway, so where was I going to go? We have Professor Anton and conference report. Was I going to go there? I don't know. Where the hell was I? All right, can't do the space thing. I don't know. Shit. But anyway, yes, this whole idea of perception. I guess maybe that was part of it. That, yeah, conference reports in one of these videos about something like, you know, good news is just a perception. You know, it's not the news itself. It's our interpretation of the news. So, I mean, a good illustration of that might be somebody, like the other day, somebody said, oh, such and such had a baby. And I was like, oh, bummer. You know, another poor slob to be ground up in the mill. And so, yeah, depending on how you view the circumstance, one person is, oh, it's time to celebrate. Another person could be, no, that's bad news. And so you have this happy feeling, this smiley face or a frowny face, depending on how your brain interprets the same bit of news. So it's very un-absolute in terms of its nature. And what gives it its definition is the formulation, the calculation of the individual. And so that's one of those, you know, very subjective circumstances, is that we are capable of changing that nature of our disposition by changing the nature of our reactions. So, yeah, theoretically, you could make somebody happy to be a slave. And so I guess I would argue that there's much of the human race has got a reaction brain that keeps making excuses and rationalizations for all this slop. It is grotesquely insufficient. We are below the necessary standard of efficiency, and yet because these people can rationalize a perspective, they can nullify that reality and pretend it's, oh, we're doing okay, we'll be okay, we'll fix it okay, and it's just made out of bullshit. And it's because it's the nature of us to, I mean, if we have a choice, if we have, let me just, choice is the right word here, if we have an opportunity to step in a pleasant place versus stepping in an unpleasant place, yeah, we're going to tend to go with the pleasant. And the only time something's going to stop us is because we have some devotion, some attachment to something that requires us to wallow in some grief or some pity or some emotional unsettledness or dissatisfaction. And sometimes even that can be wrong. That can be built out of stupid things like ego and pride. Like your baseball team loses the game and you get depressed. I mean, that's kind of, you know, it's preposterously silly. But it's a reality because you have an attachment, because you're invested, your welfare is invested in the notion that this thing of integrity that you cherish, or this thing of beauty, not be desecrated with failure or diminishment or deterioration. That will sadden you. And that's what we're made of. And really, I think the job of somebody with a brain, somebody using their brain with a mission of finding the truth, is to really shake that crap up and find out what stuff is real, what truth can we write in a book of truth, and on the rock of truth, and try to narrow this down and clean this up. So now I'm sort of back to the video from this morning, is how do we have this conversation without keep going over the same crap, keep explaining you know, to people, no, you're talking psychology, not philosophy. These are separate subjects. You can't philosophically talk about how you feel. You know, that's only a fact to be observed. It can't be something that determines the definition of a fact. If you understood what I just said. But I've been over this crap before. So yeah, it's just something I'm wallowing in terms of running ideas through my head of how it might be possible to create functional instrumentation, you know, human resources that are capable of doing a objective, scientific, clean, fair, deliberate job of gleaning the truth out of all the crap that's floating around in our perceptions, all the bullshit that we live by, the nonsense. Yeah, so anyway, that's what I'm working in my brain. But yeah, it always comes up to how difficult it is, because we have part of our notion of fairness is, not this ivory tower exclusivity, some people have a right, some people don't kind of thing. You want to avoid that. You want to be democratic as possible. But there's a real problem of credibility in that approach, because then we're looking for the Einstein answer, and if you dilute it with a bunch of Joe Sixpacks, you're not going to have the right answer. You're going to break the truth.